Well, there it is, folks. The all-new Yeti E160E, and I'm sure you'll agree it is absolutely stunning. But I guess the question is, why do they take so long to come to the market with this bike? Well, a bit of background about Yeti. They're very much into speed, very much a race breed. But what they wanted to do is they wanted to explore the unique demands of e-mountain biking before they came to the market. Such things as the power, as the weight, and the different types of riding that you do with an e-mountain bike. Now, we're going to go into some of the other details a bit later, but central to this bike is the suspension design. It's called Sixfinity, and Yeti have applied their own philosophy when it comes to the anti-rise and the anti-squat on this bike. It's got different leverage rates as well, which you can tinker with, but what it means ultimately is, when it comes to the anti-squat, is that the suspension behaves predictably and consistently when you're changing gear on hill climbs, which I guess is super important when it comes to tech climbs. Now, there's a possibility of running 3 different leverage rate settings on this bike, which means you can actually custom tune the bike, such as the liveliness of the bike, and also there's the option of running a coil or an air shock. Now, this isn't Gared's bike, this is Shaun Hughes, his bike, who's... Shaun, what's your job title? So Shaun Hughes is the factory team mechanic. The only difference between this bike and Gared's, now Gared has broken a derailleur in practice, so we can't actually feature that. The only difference is the carbon wheels on this. Gared runs aluminium wheels. The handlebar, so Gared's got a one-up components handlebar, and the other thing is the fact that Gared actually runs a coil shock rather than air. Again, which comes back to that opportunity to tinker with the leverage rates on this bike. Now, Shaun is actually joining us to go into a little bit more detail about how you can actually change that leverage rate on the bike. Explain that to us.
So, the bottom shock mount it has a flip chip type system or it's actually an interchangeable chip system. So we've got 25, 30 or 35% rate change on the bike. So depending on how you want the bike to feel, how you want it to progress through its travel, and even just going between a coil and an air shock. We can simply change the chip, which is right at the bottom of the shock, and this little guy here with the bolt on one end, you can actually flip it from drive side to non-drive side and change it from 35% progression on the drive side to 25% progression if you flip it to the non-drive side, and then the 30% chip is just right in the middle. So
Can you give us an insight into why Gared decided to go for the coil over the air on this particular track?
Okay, basically, we've been playing with Gared's bike a little bit in the lead up to this sort of racing system, and he's always been really excited about riding coil shocks. I think it's just his downhill background. He likes the really good small bump performance, and as soon as he knew that we could change the progression, straight away. And even just we pretty much settle on a coil rate for him straight away, and he's like, yeah, this is it. And the damper system between the Float X2 and the DHX2 are the same. But once you take out the friction of the air seals and all that sort of stuff, he just felt like he could feel the bike work better for him.
Okay, cool. Talking about how for you, I mean, obviously you're working on 2 or 3 bikes here. Now, I've seen there's some very cool details on this bike, especially some of the cable routing. It's pretty easy to work on, right?
It is pretty easy to work on, so I'm still figuring out the best routing system. So I've got myself and Jubal, who is racing, who runs, I guess how most English guys run, the front brake on the right. And then Shaun and Gared run front brake on the left. And so and Jared's the only one to get the internally routed handlebar at the moment. So I'm still working out the exact details on how to route it. But I'm coming up with a few more creative ways than just the typical Shimano direct from the port to the display.
You can run the brakes either way around on this bike, can't you?
Absolutely, yeah. We've also got a modular system where you can change the cable exit ports both sides. That comes with a few systems when you buy the bike, I guess, providing you talk to your bike shop about that. But yeah, you can run like cables in any side. Yeah.
So now this is your bike, Shaun. You've got some carbon wheels in there. Now, you mentioned earlier that you didn't let Gared ride carbon wheels. Why is that?
It's actually, it comes down to my choice with a lot of these things, because I'm the mechanic and I have to fix it, but also have to get them to the end of the race. Now, carbon wheels are amazing until they're not. and I can get away with it. But it also comes down to EWS racing or EWS-E racing. You've only got one set of wheels for the race. You can practice on different sets of wheels. You can blow up as many wheels as you want in practice. But once you start racing, we've got stickers on the wheels, and they need to stay on, and they need to get through the race. We've tried carbon wheels, and as I said, they're great until they're not. They're a stiff wheel. They ride really good. But with the alloy wheels, I can hit them with a hammer. I can bend them with pliers. I can do anything to them. But generally speaking, our guys will ride alloy wheels better through a race weekend. And also we partner with Cushy, so they protect the wheels as well. But even then, I'm still not happy with them racing on carbon wheels.
Now, the Shimano Epa System can be configured different ways. I mean, are you guys running standard settings, or have you done something a bit different?
We are running at the moment, just because we're getting used to the whole system, and so we're quite new to racing the bike, but we're running standard. I think it's whatever the UK is like, topping out at 25k an hour, is it? Yeah, so, and that's an EWS regulation. You can't have it, and for instance, in the USA, we can run up to 32k an hour.
Oh, God, I've totally forgotten about
so,
that.
Yeah, you got to be with, and that's, you buy the bike and it's set to your region. So, for instance, my bike was programmed in USA. It's actually still in USA programming. So I do have access to the Shimano eTube software to play around with that. But yeah, even we can measure the rollout of the wheels, and I can put an exact millimeter rollout of the wheels. So if they change tyres to get the maximum efficiency out of the motor, I can change the rollout of the wheels. And that is a bit more of a background thing, but you don't really have to worry about that at a consumer level, I don't think. You pick a wheel size and go with it.
Jared what's Jared, 5'10"? What size bike does he ride?
He rides a medium.
Medium?
Yeah, mine's an extra large, so it's a bit different sizing. But yeah, Jared and Shaun run mediums, and Gilbert runs a large. So he is not that tall.
How tall are you, Shaun? You're about 6 foot?
6'3".
Okay, so Yeti have got a very, very up-to-date sizing on this bike. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Yeti are a brand who are fully into speed, and their decision on this bike is to go with 29-inch wheels front and rear. But Damon, the team manager, just said to me, you can actually ride the bike with a 27.5 on the rear. What I probably didn't mention was the battery and the motor. Shimano EP8, 630 watt-hour battery in the down tube, and the bike comes in a variety of options: T1 or C1, turquoise or rhino. But I've been informed you cannot get a bike with that yellow top and down tube feature there, which I think is absolutely amazing. I guess you could custom paint that yourselves, but that would be criminal, I think. Prices on this bike from €9,499 to €11,489. But guys, let us know your thoughts. I think it is an absolutely stunning bike. Just want to introduce the EMBN audience to a character going by the name of Gared Graves. Now, Jared was a medalist at the World Downhill Championships on his Yeti. He was racing downhill for many, many years before he turned to four-cross, where I don't think it's unfair to say that he pretty much dominated it forever, it seems. Then, of course, he switched to enduro racing in 2013, I think it was, Jared, in Puntarella in Italy. Won the EWS race series. Obviously, he's an Olympian as well at BMX, before turning to cross country. And now here he is in Crom, Montana, riding e-bikes. Jared, great to see you. I guess the story is Gared Graves is back in Europe, and it's great to see him. What do you miss about Europe, right? Racing in Europe?
Oh, I love a good soggy sandwich, you know. Just love the tomato, the cheese, the ham, all the combos. Just throw it together, make it soggy. Just love it.
Right, talking about soggy, what about your performance today here in Crom, Montana?
Soggy. Performance was lacking. Just feeling a bit lost after 3 years of not competing. So just getting used to the high alpine stuff, you know, just letting it go, and definitely struggling with that a lot today. So
yeah, I guess the height, we're at about, I think at the top of the hill is about like 8,000 feet or something. And then, like you say, you've got that loose alpine rock, which is pretty horrible to ride, isn't it?
yeah, like the altitude's definitely not a problem. Been in Colorado the last sort of couple of months, so a lot of altitude time, but it's just a totally different style of riding that I haven't, like normally in Enduro's EWS races in the past, like it's been something I've been sort of strong at, but today just felt like fish out of water again, just not having done it for years. So
Can we dive a little bit deeper into some of the some of the factors there. I mean, is it like the timing in the corners? Is it the weight of the bike? Is it the power stage?
Oh, the power stage was my worst nightmare today. But as far as like descending goes, like my braking points were just so all over the place today. Like I'd be hard on the brakes and realise I'd like let them off again, like, and then on the brakes again, just super jerky. Like there's a lot to be said for like just racing and riding these conditions like all the time. So
It's pretty amazing that Nico Vulia's won the race yet again, isn't it? I mean, he started racing like back in the 1990s. It's mental, isn't it?
oh, exactly. I mean, the guy's super talented, and you know that anything he does, he's gonna do it to the absolute top level. So, you know, it's really cool to see him just like killing it again.
So I was chatting to your former countryman, Josh Carlson, about how important weight is in this sport. I mean, we've got some people who really agonise, you know, within like 45, 50 kilos. I mean, if you're not lightweight, it's going to be really tough, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely seems that way on the power stage. Like we sort of came in pretty underprepared, I guess. Looking at it now, we had no idea what to expect and no idea what the requirements were of all that. So we're just sort of playing it live, you know, like guessing. And I think it was definitely our downfall today for sure. So a lot to learn there.
Jared, I've seen you killing yourself on training. Give people an idea how tough it was for you. It's just a minute, isn't it? It can't be that hard.
Oh, that's what you'd think too, but actually that's the most painful thing you can do is like a minute all out. So more than like anything longer, you're pacing yourself, and anything shorter, you don't get that tired. But like it was brutal. It was super hard. So, and definitely carrying too much weight. I mean, I've been doing a lot of XC racing at home, and I get a lot lighter for that than I am now. But then at the same time, if I start eating normally again, like to put some padding.
That's from the former EWS winner. By the way, I just need to throw that in again.
And I mean, it definitely doesn't help for the power stage. But then, if I'm all skin and bone, like every time I crash, I just felt like I was getting injured all the time too. So there's definitely got to be a bit of a balance there. So.
I guess the big question everybody wants to know is the future of Gared Graves and e-mountain bike racing.
Not sure at the moment. We're just kind of feeling it out. We got, you know, super sick new bikes, so we've got to do some more development with that. And I mean, always developing. So just trying new things like coil shocks, sort of different tunes with the suspension and the shocks, and just figuring it out, and just learning, you know, what's required for these races. It's definitely a bit of a steep learning curve. Like we'll figure it out.
Jared, so great to see you racing on the hill and e-mountain biking. I really, really hope to see you continue in the sport. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And the sandwiches. Don't forget the sandwiches.